For those of you who do catch up online with this class, and if you access it through Torah Media Atlanta, you should be aware that Yisrael Killian, who runs Torah Media Atlanta, reached out because donations to that site are down. For those of you who do take advantage of it, I would suggest making a donation online when you do use it so that he can continue that site.
This is the week that we read Parshas Truma. For the next 5 weeks, we're going to be dealing with, God willing, we'll be dealing with the building of the tabernacle, the Mishkan, the forerunner of the Beis Hamikdash, the Holy Temple. Okay? So let me give you a brief history of our temple that we continually, every day in our prayer services, 3 times a day, we pray for the rebuilding of the temple. Okay? So this is the Mishkan that we're going to learn about, and that was 40 years in the desert. We had the Mishkan. Then what happened was we entered Israel, and the Mishkan was 14 years. The same Mishkan was 14 years in Gilgal. Okay? From there, it was 369 years in Shiloh, 57 years in Nov, and that is the Mishkan. Then the Beis Hamikdash, the Holy Temple, which is basically a replica of that in a larger format and a more permanent structure. It wasn't a portable structure that you could take down. The Beis Hamikdash, the first one, was 410 years. Okay? And then we had a 70-year exile, and the second Beis Hamikdash, the second temple, was 420 years, right? And when that was destroyed, we went to exile, which we are presently in, over 1,925 years. So that's the history on that. All right, we're going to discuss other things. In the other things that are in the portion, some of the main items of the Mishkan. We can't go into all of them, but the menorah is discussed in the Torah portion. The golden menorah, the shulchan, the table, where miraculously the loaves of bread, 12 loaves of bread, stayed fresh from Shabbos to Shabbos, Mizbeach, the altar, the Kodesh Kedoshim, the Holy of Holies, behind a pyrochus, a curtain, was the Holy of Holies, 3 boxes, one within another, and inside the inner box was the 10 Commandments. On top of the box was these 2 cherub-like figures called Kruvim. Okay, and that was the heart of the Mishkan. And I use that word on purpose, as I'll explain, God willing, in a few minutes. Okay? These are some of the things of the Mishkan, and there's many other items, of course, many other vessels. Now, if some of these things sound familiar to you, I'll tell you why. Don't you want to know why? Yes, I knew you did. Okay. It's because when we went into exile, Kodesh Baruch Hu, in His tremendous chesed, He didn't want us to feel completely forlorn and forlonged. So, what did He do? He said, I'm going to give you a Beis Mikdash Ma'at. I'm going to give you a miniature sanctuary to take with you in exile. Right? And that, of course, is our shuls. Our shuls is like a microcosm of the Mishkan. Therefore, some of these things sound familiar to you. Right? The paroiches, the curtains. Right? In our shul, what separated in the Mishkan, the holy from the Holy of Holies, that's what the paroiches, the curtain, did. That's the same thing we have in our shul, right? Behind one side of the paroiches is the Holy of Holies, the Ark. The Torah is in there. Well, that's parallel, of course, to in the Mishkan, or the Beis Hamikdash, was the 10 Commandments, right? The actual tablets. Okay. On the other side of the paroiches was the Kodesh, just holy. What was that? On the Mishkan, that was the table that we described, the Mizbeach, the menorah, okay? And what do we have? In the shul, we have the bima, right, where you put the Torah down on. Well, that's kind of, parallel to, like, the table, right? And so we don't have all the things, but we have the Ner Tamid, the eternal light. Well, that's based on, on the Mishkan as well. So many of the things you see in shul today, right, is because of this. It's a little bit of a reminder of what we had and what we should be yearning for. Okay? The final Beis Hamikdash. And, by the way, in a certain sense, when you're in Shul or learning Torah, you're back at Mount Sinai and you're out of the exile. That's another conception. When you're in Shul, you're at the base of Mikdash again. So in a certain way, we are able to escape our exile every now and then in a certain figure. 3 constant miracles, right, were the loaves, staying fresh on Shabbos, the light of the western lamp, right, stayed lit miraculously from Erev Shabbos to Erev Shabbos, and the constant presence of the Shekhinah, the divine presence over the Mishkan, were 3 constant miracles, yes. Okay, all right, so that is one factor. The shuls today are in place of our base of Mikdash, a miniature sanctuary, right? I'm talking to you.
Of course.
Of course. Thank you. Okay. We learn a lot of, if you will, practical lessons from the building of the Mishkan. It's very interesting. Things like, by the way, we also learn a lot about where mythology came from. It's amazing. For example, the story of, I'll tell you the story. You tell me if you can figure out the myth that originated from it. You know that staff that Moshe had that struck the rock and all that, and the sea split and everything. So the Medrash says very clearly that it was stuck in the ground in the backyard of Yisro, Jethro, and no one could get it out of the ground. And the Masorah was, whoso could pull it out of the ground would be the rightful king into England. No, the staff would belong to him. Right. In this Parsha, Techashim, we have a description of an animal, chapter 25, verse 5, a Techashim, with a multicolored animal. Rashi, in the Gemara in Shabbos says, a Bria B'fnei Atzma, it lived during that time, and that was it. Then it went extinct. And it's described as multicolored, as we mentioned, and having a single horn protruding from the middle of its forehead. Isn't that interesting? Okay. All right. So the other thing, I started saying some practical things that we learn. In chapter 26, verse 13, it talks about Yesaruach Atzei Mishkan, that you should have this covering over the coverings of the woods of the Mishkan. And Rashi tells us there, Lamda Torah derech eretz. The Torah is teaching us a certain manners, a way. Shia Adam Chas al Hayofi, that a person should have take care of things that are valuable. You put this covering over, the nice tapestries. You should, so it's an interesting lesson. We have a rule in it's a halacha, Bal Tashkis. You're not allowed to waste anything that can be used. You can't throw away good food or good clothes. You should try to use it. So the Torah teaches us on those same lines. If you have something nice, you should take care of it. It's amazing. I mean, who would have thought you would, learn something like this? But again, the Torah covers all aspects of life. As we mentioned many times, the word Torah is from the root word hora'ah, which means to guide. An instruction booklet. It tells us how to live in every facet of our life. So we've mentioned many times there's no division between shul and state. Right? The Torah teaches every aspect of life. Which carries us into the very next topic. Didn't you know it would? It's a debate there with Tamar. Some people say that she always wore, the Rashi brings 2 opinions there, that she always wore a veil, and that time she wasn't wearing a veil, so that's why Yehuda didn't recognize her, or vice versa. She never wore a veil, and this time she was. So there, could be. Okay, a couple questions on the wording of the Torah. For example, it says in chapter 25, verse 2, the very beginning, Vayikhu li truma. Truma means an offering, a donation, okay? So, if you know Hebrew grammar, that doesn't seem correct. If you offer something, it should say you should give an offering. Vayikhu means you acquire. You should take an offering. That seems like, a contradiction. Everybody hear the question? You don't take an offering, you give an offering. It's mashma from here that you're receiving by giving. That's pretty much the answer, isn't it? Okay? The truth is, if you think about it, if I gave, let's say, a pen to Rabbi Feldman, right? And he used it every day. So who's really receiving? Me or him? I'm getting a lot more than he is. The fact that he would honor me by using that pen I gave him every day is a tremendous source of satisfaction and merit for me. So same thing here. we are giving offerings to what? To the Mishkan, the tabernacle where God is going to dwell. That we get to contribute to that. That God would accept that, right? Those offerings from us. That's a tremendous acquisition of merit for us. Okay? So that's one reason it says, Vayikuli Truma. You're really receiving more than you're giving. It's a tremendous honor for you. Another insight into that we learn from Ruth. Ruth and Boaz. If you remember the story of Ruth, she came in with her mother-in-law Naomi, right? And she went to gather the leftover sheaves in the field. And Boaz gave her, we found out who she was, and she was very modest, and Boaz gave her a lot of food. And she came home to Naomi, and Naomi asked her, how it went, and she said, the man I did chesed for today. Oh, amazing statement. He gave her. I did. So, the same concept, except a little more deeper here. It's true that he gave her physical food, but I gave him olam haba. In other words, I gave him a mitzvah. For a little bit of pennies of food, he got to do a mitzvah. So I did him a chesed. And that's what it says in the Gemara. Yoiser masha bal bayis noisin la'oini, ha'oini noisin la'bal bayis. More than the person, the guy gives to the poor person gives to his benefactor. Why? Same concept, right? For a few pennies, he gets olam haba, right? You hear? Now, listen to Rashi. That fits in beautiful with Rashi. Why? Because Rashi says, very cryptic, short commentary. Very first Rashi in the Parsha. Ve'ikuli truma, take for yourself an offering. Rashi, lishmi. Do it for me. For the sake of heaven. For sincere reasons. You hear? In other words, it's true you're receiving more than giving. You're giving a few, pennies, right? And you're getting the mitzvah, which you're going to eat off for eternity, right? You're getting olam haba. But despite that, don't do it for that reason. Don't do it like it says in Pirkei Avos, amanas lekabel schar. Don't be like a servant serving his master to get reward. Be like a son serving his father, because you want to obey his commandments. So that's what Rashi says. It's true you're getting a lot more than you're receiving, but do it just for righteous purposes, to obey my commandments. Okay? So that's another insight. Veikuli truma. Another thing, well, there really is another thing, and I'll find it for you in a second here. Where are those commercial breaks when you want them? The truth is, we can't give a Kodesh Baruch Hu diddly squat. The bottom line is, everything is from him. It's like your parent gives you an allowance. Then you take the allowance, and you buy him a present, right? That's very nice, but, and it's a very good analogy, actually, but the truth is, like David HaMelech said, Kimiyadcha nasnu lach. From your hand, we're giving you. You gave us everything. What are we giving you? Right? There's one thing we can give Hashem. The heart. The desire to give. That's the only thing you can really give. And it fits very good. It fits very well with the language of the verse. But look at the rest of the verse. It's beautiful. Every word of Torah. It doesn't just say, give me an offering. Let's look at it. Chapter 25, verse 2. Vayikuli truma. Take from me an offering. Me'ez kol ish, from every man, asher yidavenu libo, right? That is willing, like nadiva of his heart, is willing to have a willingness of giving of his heart. Tikhu es trumasi, and it repeats it. You shall take an offering. In other words, right? That's the only thing you can really give is yinavenu libo, the willingness of heart. You hear it? Yechuli truma mes kol ish asher yidavenu libo. Only take the offering of those people who have the willingness, the heart to give. As a matter of fact, to such an extent that Betzalel was the main craftsman of the Mishkan. So he was a genius. He was able to determine from the physical properties that were donated to the Mishkan, the gold, silver, all these different tapestries, all these things, all the fabrics. He was able to determine the sincerity of the donor. And according to that sincerity, that he placed the metals to be used for the various vessels of the Mishkan. In other words, someone had very pure motives, right? So that gold, let's say that he gave, right, or the wood, whatever it was, that got to go in the Kodesh Kadoshim, the Holy of Holies, to make the actual ark, right? Someone else didn't have a sincere motives, right? So that might have made, the outer structure or the curtains that overhung the Mishkan, whatever it is, okay? Okay, they say the same thing happens today. If a person donates money, let's say donates money to a yeshiva, okay? So if a person's doing it because he made a public pledge and he wants to be thought good of and, seeking honor, don't get me wrong, it's still a very good thing. So you still get some mitzvah, no doubt about it. However, if his motives weren't as pure, his heart wasn't as pure, then that money may go to pay the electric bill in the yeshiva. Right? While somebody else had very, very pure intentions and didn't want people to know about who he just wanted to give for the sake of giving and very pure intentions. That money might have actually gone to buying the Sforim in the yeshiva, the books in the yeshiva, or the Torah, or whatever it is. Okay? Okay, question? Va'asuli Mikdash, the next question we have, Va'asuli Mikdash v'shechanti b'seicham, chapter 25, verse 8. Now, the wording here is also kind of unusual. You shall make for me a tabernacle, and I will dwell in you. Really, it should say, I'll dwell in it. Right? It should say, Va'asuli Mikdash v'shechanti b'seichach, or b'seicham mishkan. Okay, that's what it should say. Instead it says, build for me a mikdash, and I'll dwell within you. And Rashi tells us, L'doros, for all time. And that's that's also kind of difficult, because we know there's times we don't have a mishkan. We don't have a tabernacle, so what does it mean for all time? Okay, that's it. You hit it right on the head.
I just heard
the Al Shicha Kodesh says this, what you just said. He says it's talking about, there's two different things here. Yes, there's the building of the physical Mishkan, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Shekhinah, will dwell there, but also, V'shechanti paseicham, within you, within each and every Jew, that's talking to every individual, that everybody is supposed to make a mikdash in his heart. A place that Hashem can reside. If a person's so full of ego, there's no place for HaKadosh Baruch Hu there. Right? So, that's the idea. Every one of us in our everyday lives, whatever we're doing, we're supposed to make a mikdash for Hashem. That's what we said at the beginning of the class, right? No division between shul and state. It's not just a matter of being in shul, right? That you're in the mikdash ma'at, in a miniature sanctuary. But when you go out, so what do you think? You think I'm talking about reading Tehillim all day, don't you? About going to Torah classes and learning. I'm not talking about that. I mean, it's got to fine if you do that. But I'm talking about being honest in your business dealings, being a pleasant Jew in the street, grocery shop, whatever it is, saying thank you, please. You're an ambassador of God. Everybody's going to look at you, and Khan told me some interesting stories. Be the only Jew in town. How you behave is a reflection on all Jewry. You're a walking Mishkan. You're causing Hashem to dwell everywhere by just being, a good Jew in every facet of their life. And it says this in Mishlei, by 3 words. It says how the whole Torah is encompassed in these 3 words. B'chol darachecha da'ehu. Know God in all your ways. In all your ways, no matter what you're doing. Right? Everything in Judaism, there's a halacha. From tying your shoes, washing your hands, open your eyes in the morning, going to sleep, business dealing. One of the 4 big volumes of the Shulchan Aruch, Choshen Mishpat, deals with business. Unbelievable, very complicated halachas of business, okay? So that's the idea of V'shechanti paseicham, I'll dwell within every Jew. That will make themselves into a mishkan that Hashem can dwell in. And of course, it talks about our home as well, which we'll talk about, God willing, in a few minutes. Questions? Anyway, that was the final, right, wound up and no pitch. Right, the final release there is the Rashi, right? We have the question on the Rashi. What does Rashi mean for all generations? Right? We don't have a Mishkan in every generation. Well, this is it. You can't have a Mishkan in every generation. The person who makes himself in a Mishkan, that kind of Mishkan is always here. For all generations. Okay? Right? Okay. I anticipate your question is going to be very good. So you get the Silver Clip Award. That's a very good question. Why we need a physical Mishkan is really going to tie into the Parsha in a couple of weeks. I'll give you a brief answer, and then we're going to expand on it in a couple of weeks. And this is before the sin. We have 5 Parshas here that deal with the building of the Mishkan. Really 4. The middle Parsha is the sin of the golden calf. So we have 2 Parshas, Truma and Tetzaveh, a building of the Mishkan. We have the sin of the golden calf, and then we have another 2 Parshas, Vayakel and Pekudei, right? So the question is asked, when was the commandment to build the Mishkan? Was it before or after the sin of the golden calf? Because the Medrash goes in, and the Gemara tells us that the Mishkan was built as atonement for the golden calf. Therefore, the very first offering in the tabernacle was a shore, an ox, similar to a calf, to atone for the golden calf. The very first donation was gold, the golden calf, to atone. So, the answer is, and this will answer your question, is before the golden calf, we didn't really need, at least according to one opinion, we didn't need a physical structure. Seforno says, any place you call my name, I'll come there and bless you. That the whole world was to be a Mishkan to Hashem. What happened after the golden calf, we showed ourselves to be more physical, limited, and we couldn't focus on such a broad concept. So we needed the pomp and ceremony of a fixed place to help us focus, right? And with the big day kahuna for the priests and the gold and all these things we needed. And the truth is, even today they say, if I wake up late in the morning, and let's say I missed the minyan, I should still go to shul and pray there, even by myself. Because it's a place miyuchad with tefillah. It's a place designated for diving. It'll help me focus. And I say a person, even in their own apartment, whatever it is, their own house, they should have a fixed room if they pray there on a regular basis. Because we are very distracted. We're very distracted. Really, in the Shemona Esrei, the standing prayer, right? The main dam, you're supposed to concentrate on every word that you're saying. Now, the halacha is, you have to know every word you're saying in the first blessing, or you have not fulfilled your obligation of the prayer. And the truth is, you got to be a Superman to be able to do that, because our minds wander so easily. So the answer to your question is it's a consension. You're right. Ideally, and it still holds true, ideally that all of us are supposed to make ourselves a Mishkan to Hashem, our homes, all these things. But for our benefit, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us like this crutch, the shul, the Mishkan, that we can get more attuned. And during the times of the Holy Temple, there was 10 open miracles, right? And it was a fantastic thing. People had sins, they would go there, they'd do sincere tshuva, and they'd come out cleansed. That's what we're missing. They felt spirituality. They felt what a mitzvah was. They felt what learning Torah was. Okay? And we don't have that today, and we have a very hard time grasping that. We're very caught in the physical world. So all these things was to help us focus, right? To get our game face on, our spiritual game face on, if you will. You understand? Let me hit the answer to that. First of all, there's no chronological order to Torah. Right now, we're talking about the final Mishkan. Right? It's in fact, it's true that it became a physical structure. So now it's describing that physical structure, even though it's before the golden calf. There is no chronological order in the Torah. Number one. Number two, the Mishkan, Betzalel, the main craftsman, said he knew the wisdom of the Hebrew alphabet that God created the world with. You hear this? It's an amazing thing. The Mishkan was a microcosm of the entire world and the human body. And therefore, all these metals, the material, all of this was very profound mystical reasons that had to be used. Okay, for example, it says the 10 Urios, the 10 curtains over the Mishkan, that was parallel to the 10 sayings that God said and created the world. They say the Kodesh Kadoshim, the Holy of Holies, okay, that's in the world large. As far as the human body, the Holy of Holies, that's parallel to the human heart, right? Because that's the lifeblood of Israel, the Torah, right? So gold, even the Hebrew letters, the words for, like to say silver, kesef, is from the word to yearn, liksaif. It all has very profound meanings. Another idea is that, what can I do? It doesn't like the word, Can't please everybody.
He's hungry, that's
No. So, another idea is that this is you know what Bikurim is? The first fruits. You gave the first fruits to the Kohen. So in a certain sense, this is the first fruits of all the talents and skills of Israel. Okay? All the craftsmen, all the tapestries, all the gold, silver, everything, the first fruits was given to God in the form of the Mishkan. Okay? But I can't emphasize enough, there's a lot of mystical things going on at the Mishkan, again, parallel to the world and the human body. So your question's very good, and I'm limited on how I can answer it because it's the answer to your question is pure Kabbalah. I don't know how else to put it. Yes, the other example is the Das King Bali Tosef says the following: when we were at Mount Sinai, we had tremendous devakas, a cleaving to God. Right? The Shekhinah was there. We had a vision. We saw how Malachim Saviv Kisei HaKavod, how the angels were surrounding God's throne of glory, whatever these things mean, right? And the Shekhinah dwelled amongst them. Right? We yearned to be like that heavenly host here on earth. We wanted to serve God. So the Mishkan is a portable Mount Sinai experience. And God allowed us to encamp in divisions of 4, 3 tribes, north, east, south, and west, just like the angels do on high. V'shachanti b'seicham, and I'll dwell amongst you, kamo b'seicham malachim. Just like I dwell on high amongst the angels who are surrounding my kisei of kavod, so too, my kindred, my children, I'm going to dwell with you down here. And there's a verse in Psalms that says, Amarti Elohim atem b'nei elyon kulchem. I said you were like God-like, you were like children of on high, like the angels. But then you did the sin of the golden calf and you fell. There's actually a Psalm. By the way, the Psalms, you should know, is exactly parallel to the Torah. There's 5 books of the Psalms. You should know that. David HaMelech was a tremendous, in Kabbalah, and that is parallel. So that's one of the things that's parallel to here. So again, more mysticism involved in the Mishkan. Okay, and again, the word truma is from the word roim, to lift up, to raise. The giving of all these physical properties, gold, silver, the properties that people are so into, especially gold and silver, you're supposed to raise it. You're supposed to raise it to spirituality by using it. You hear? That's the idea of a truma. Truma means not just an offering, raise the physical to the spiritual by donating it to the Mishkan. It goes further. Do you know how truma works? There's a mitzvah called truma. Do you have, let's say, a pile of wheat, and you give a 50th of it, whatever it is, the shear that you give, the amount you give, right, to the Kohen, until you give that, none of that wheat's allowed. It's tevel, you can't use it. Okay? You give that portion to the Kohen, now the other 49 50ths become legally, you can use it. Okay? It has the ability to sanctify the rest. Says that's what happens here. When you give the gold, when you give Meiser, a tithe of your money, you're not just making that tithe holy, it means the other 9/10 of the money that you're using, it becomes holy. Why? Right? Because if it wasn't, you got $100, you gave the $10 to tzedakah, it means you wouldn't have given the $10 tzedakah if it wasn't for the other 90. So they all become encompassed in the mitzvah. So all the gold and silver and all the materials of the world, so to speak, get a truma, a roim. It's raised up, the gashmias, okay? So that's some of the ideas. Okay, you had a question? Very good thought. And think of that. There's a concept, there's a halacha, the Rav Am Hadras Melech, by the multitude of the people is the honor of the king of the world, Hashem. Right. So there's also the idea, of course, the base of Migdash. A lot of people used to come there, and especially the 3 regalim, Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot, right? And there's that. Yeah, there's that concept as well. There's that concept. All of Israel is a unity. Serving Hashem is a great honor for the king. Yeah, that's right. Chapter 26, verse 15. The main wood that was used in the building of the Mishkan is called Atzei Shittim, a cedar wood, a very hard wood. Chazal tells the following statement: La'olam ya Adam rach kekana v'lo kasha ke'erez. A person should always be easygoing and flexible as a reed, like a reed, and not be hard like cedar. Okay? A person should, when it comes to his own honor, a person should be flexible, kick back, not hold grudges and stuff. However, there's one exception. Says the Avnei Ezel. There's one exception. The only time, and in fact, he quotes, Lo ya'olam ru'i lishtamesh arizim, except for the Mishkan. The world wasn't worthy to use this hard cedar wood if it wasn't for the tabernacle, the Mishkan. So what does it mean? So that's a medrash he's quoting. He says, cedar wood, the Mishkan, of course, represents Yiddishkeit, Judaism, right? So that's the one place, when it comes to things of holiness, halacha, Yiddishkeit, right, Inyane Yehudis, being a Jew, there's where you have to be hard like cedar and uncompromising, and not bend and not be flexible. And that's the lesson. He says why dafka atse shitim, this hard cedar wood was used in the Mishkan to teach us that it's great, and your person should always be flexible as a reed, and but not when it comes to Judaism, not when it comes to halacha. There you have to be strong and adhere, because so that's an important lesson also from here. We also learned that the whole idea of this Vayikuli Truma, make me an offering, and as we mentioned before, that we really don't give Hashem anything except the desire to give. We should realize even that we have to thank for Hashem. Like, for example, in Modim, we say, in Shemona Esrei, we say, we thank you, Hashem, for the following things. And then at the end it says, Al Sha'anach Modim Lach. We thank you, in other words. So, Modim Anach Lach, we thank you for the ability to give us the sensitivity to realize that we should thank you. Right? That's really the biggest present Hashem gives us. Because if you walk around not realizing that you should thank God, not appreciating everything He gives to you, not appreciating your Yiddishkeit, right? That's a tremendous curse. So here too, the very fact that Hashem put in a person's heart the arousement to want to give, to want to serve Him, right? That's also your taking. Vayikuli Truma, right? That's also from Hashem. Okay? Question. There's a lot of mystical reason for the mitzvahs as well. A mitzvah, by the way, is from the word safsa, to bind. It's like, compared like Hashem throws ropes down from heaven, and they're called mitzvahs. And it helps us combine them. But this answers what Gail was asking before. These are all reminders. These are all helping things, right? Kodesh Baruch Hu set up the world in this way. He gave us His commandments, and we obey Him. You're right. He doesn't need it per se, right? But it's all a test of our faith, and if we're loyal servants to obey Him. Of course, there's a lot of other mystical reasons for that it mitzaref, it purifies the entire world. But in a simple level, you're 100% right. Kodesh Baruch Hu doesn't need anything. It's for our benefit He gave us the mitzvahs. This is a whole share in itself. But basically, Hashem, it says more than the calf wants to suck, the cow wants to be suckled. Okay? And they say that's a Kodesh Baruch Hu. He wants to give good to Israel. So He set up a system where what? Our neshama comes down to this coarse body. We come into this world, trial and tribulation. It's dark. We don't see things clearly. We don't see spirituality. And we still do your mitzvahs. We don't understand them, right? Now, when we depart, that soul can earn eternity. So why, if we just go right back to the same place, underneath the throne of glory, whatever it means, so just put our souls there to begin with. Why do we have to go through this whole process? So the concept is called Nama de Kasufa, which means a bread of shame. HaKadosh Baruch Hu being good is the ultimate in good. The ultimate in good wants us to feel, first of all, it wants us to be able to give good to others, and wants us to feel that we earned it. We did it the old-fashioned way. Right? So therefore, He puts us down there, and we go through this, a real trial and tribulations there. Not everybody makes it. And then He gives us that reward, and it's not a bread of shame. We feel like we earned it, that closest to Him. We feel like we served Him. So we don't relate to it. When we get to that world of truth, we'll have such a burning love for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to serve Him. We'll look back at these days as literally a divine opportunity where we didn't see things and we still served You. Up there we'll be like angels. It's very easy to serve God. So this is the current. This is really showing our loyalty. This is, you understand? So that's the whole concept of why we're here you're hitting on. Kind of free will, like Yetzer Hara, our battling, temptations, not right, 100%. Question. The way that they put it is on Rosh Hashanah, Ein Melech Bli Am. There's no king without a nation. There's a Moshel, there's a ruler. HaKadosh Baruch has many aspects. We call him Avinu, our father, Malkeinu, our king, but the idea of Rosh Hashanah is this king, right? The coronation of the king. That's one thing we can do. We can make Hashem a king, because a Moshel, a ruler, says the Vilna Gaon, that is, he forces his rulership over you. A king, according to this, this definition, however it is today, is irrelevant. But a king, right, is something the nation voluntarily takes on their own. So we can make a Kodesh Baruch Hu a king in that sense. It would be blasphemy if it wasn't the Vilna Gaon who said this. It's like an amazing thing to say. But we can make a Kodesh Baruch Hu a king by wanting him to be our king. Yeah, so that's a very observant point. God is God. That aspect we can't change. We can deny ourselves the privilege of making him a king over us. But we just denied ourselves, not him. He doesn't need, see, the aspect of kingship, rulership, is for our benefit, not his. He's God. He's above a king. So he doesn't need that. He's the King of Kings. That ain't all of it, right? But, us, it would be a great benefit if you be our king. We want to elect you, so we're only denying ourselves. Okay, there's guys, give me 10 minutes and I'll take all questions because we're running a little short. There was these staffs that fit into the, ark. There were like these rings on the end of the ark where the Ten Commandments were, and the staffs went through and held it. So the verse says in chapter 25, verse 15, you are body, okay, lo yasuru lamenu, they shouldn't ever depart. Those staffs always stayed in there. Now the staff, even in English, represents something that supports a support, right? The staffs represent those that support Torah learning. Like the concept we talked about, Zevulun and Yisachar, right? So that is a little musser there. Sorry. That was a little musser there, that those that support Torah should always, never depart. They should always try to support them, but it gets better. You should know that the R never literally had to be carried. It carried itself. It carried its carriers. So, the fact is, the person, the Zevulun, who thinks he's supporting the Yisachar, really, Zevulun, the merchant, is only being successful because of the Torah learning of Yisachar. So the Torah learning is doing more for the benefactor who's giving him money than the other way around. The Aaron carried itself and carried its carriers. Okay? So, and that's a fact. Yisachar, in this relationship, who sat in their Torah and Zevulun supported him, Zevulun was only successful out there because of Yisachar's learning. So they were, in a certain respect, they were only helping themselves. Another thing that the Mishkan did is, besides it atoned for all sorts of sins, specifically the Shulchan, the table, brought blessing to the entire world, and it atoned for sins, right? And there was no knives, no metal allowed to be on it, because metal, you use weapons, it shortens life, and the idea of the Shulchan and the Mizbeach, it prolonged life. Therefore, I just wanted to show you an example that many things here are parallel to what we do every day. There's a halacha that when you bench, except maybe on Shabbos, Birchat HaMazon, that you should not have any knives on the table. Shabbos is Shalom anyways, that you may not have to do it on Shabbos. It's interesting. It can't hurt. Okay? Also, the whole idea, we wash our hands. That's derived from the service of the Mishkan. The Kohanim would wash their hands before they offered sacrifices. We, all of us, are Mamlechas Kohanim, a kingdom of priests, and we don't have a Mizbeach. Our Shulchan, our table, acts as an atonement, like the Mizbeach did, like the altar did in the Mishkan. So too, before we eat like bread, a main meal is considered with bread, we wash our hands. The food, if we eat it for sincere reasons, becomes like a korban, like a sacrifice. Right? And it's a very nice thing if you can give tzedakah before the meal, because that enhances that as well. Anyways, all this is just example of everyday activities we do that we don't stop to think about it, that really are because of the Mishkan. Anshe Sfar, the men of France, of the Sephardi nations there, I think in particular France, they used to be buried with their tabletop. They used to make their coffins from their table. You hear this? Because they had guests, poor people at their table always. They wanted that merit to go with them. And in fact, the words that's used, they were trying to bring across the point, Shirak davar achad, adam yikach le'olam haba. A person will only take one thing to the next world. The chesed and the mitzvahs he did in this world. So they want to be buried at the tabletop. Now that's another definition, vayikluli truma. Take for me an offering. You can't take it with you? You can. Any tzedakah, money you give, vayikluli truma. You just acquired it. You truly acquired it forever, for eternity. Anything else you spend money on, right, if it's not a mitzvah, or and that could be, eating, raising a family, it could be normal things, right? That's also a mitzvah. However, just frivolous things, whatever it is, for their own sake, not as a means to an end, that you're not going to take with you. But anything they do, vayikluli truma, you took for yourself an offering. It truly becomes you. You're going to take it with you. So that's another meaning of that. Okay, the kruvim, those mystical cherubs, had the faces of children, right? And they were facing each other. They were on top of the Aron, on top of the Ark where the Ten Commandments were, right? So, it's interesting. The halacha is the following. First of all, before I get to the halacha, you should know why was it the faces of children? Because they are the true guarantors of Torah, right? If we don't educate our children, the Torah Chalila would be lost. Now, listen, in conjunction to that, Rav Meir Shapiro says the following, the halacha, in reference to this halacha, which is, in any of the vessels of the Mishkan, if you didn't have gold, you could substitute silver. You could do substitutes, right? Except for these kruvim. These kruvim, these cherub-like figures, had to be gold. No substitutes allowed. So according to what we said, he says what this means is, these children, the youth, guarding the Torah, they represent chinuch, education for the children, Torah education for the children. He says, and when it comes to that, their education in Torah, no substitute. You can't economize. It has to be pure gold. You got to give them the very best education possible in Torah. Okay? Okay, so that's a very important lesson. Next, this is a very important point. Veichuli truma, take for me an offering. Many commentators mention this. At the end of davening, 3 times a day, we say, give us our portion of the Torah. What's our portion? The Torah is the Torah. It's all our Torah. What's our portion of the Torah? It says really, everybody relates to Torah differently. We all have different personalities, right? So forth and so on. But in addition to that, each one of us is a certain part of Torah, right, that we feel a closeness to. We all have to do all 613 mitzvahs. But there's some, like mitzvah in the Torah, some people feel a connection to visiting the sick in the hospital, right? Or some people feel a connection to tzedakah, or having guests, or learning, or davening, whatever it is, right? So that's what it means. It says, V'yakuli truma, everybody, in addition to 613 mitzvahs, has to find their individual mitzvah that they feel a certain closeness to, right? That will be like the center point of their service to God. There's some mitzvah that you really connect with. And that's what it says in the Gemara in Shabbos. It's a very mystical Gemara. These great sages are talking about, I'm going to get Olam Haba. You know why? I fulfilled the 3 meals of Shabbos. And another guy said, I'm going to get Olam Haba because I did such and such mitzvah. So what were they saying? The Maharal says on that the Gemara is trying to tell us that to lead a full spiritual life, one must have one truma, a special mitzvah, that he observes with all his heart and soul. It really dedicates more to that mitzvah than anything else. And that's why each one of these great sages, they did all the mitzvahs. But they were talking about, like Kiddush. That mitzvah I really did, said one of the sages. That's going to get me Olam Haba. Because that was my special truma. So each one, it's a good lesson. Each one of us needs to find that. each one of our souls, and the Tiyas and the Neshama, each one has a leaning to something that we connect with. Okay, now I'm going to finish with all the Kalim, the menorah in particular. Moshe Rabbeinu could not figure out how to do it, all its mystical properties. So Hashem gave him a vision and fire of it, and then he made it. It was a very mystical thing. Okay, all these Torah portions of the building of the Mishkan every year, even during a leap year, are during the month of Adar. That's it. Thank you very much. Bye. No, that's not that. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, we want to harp some more on this idea of make me a Mishkan and I'll dwell within you, not within the Mishkan per se. Number three, we're going to find over and over again, it's in our Parsha as well, the commandment of Shabbos is mentioned right there, juxtaposed. I like that word. Here it is. It's been 3 weeks since I used it. To the Mishkan. Shabbos and the Mishkan are mentioned over and over again together. Evidently, there's a certain connection between Shabbos and the Mishkan. It's very interesting. So that's it. We want to connect these things. Why are all the Parshas involved in the Mishkan are always in the month of Adar? What's the connection to Shabbos and the Mishkan? And this idea of build me a Mishkan, but I'll dwell within you, the Jewish people. Okay? And then, of course, to top it off, a little whipped cream, Rashi's comment, for all generations. And, of course, we know for the last 1925 years we haven't had a Mishkan. Okay. So, you basically hit upon it. The basic answer is the following, that Hashem wants us to make ourselves a Mishkan, but not only that, if you look at the end of this book, Exodus, which is the book of redemption, it opens up what's coming out of Egypt, and it ends, the last portion ends with taking the accounting of all the things that were donated to the Mishkan. So Ramban, Nachmanides says, only now is our redemption from Egypt complete, when we're back to the level of the tents of the patriarchs, where 3 constant miracles, right? We learned this from Sarimenu. 3 constant miracles. Those 3 miracles that we mentioned earlier in the class, the Shekhinah always being there, the bread lasting from one Erev Shabbos to the next, and the candle. Well, Rashi tells us those 3 miracles were on Avram and Sarah's tent. Sarah, Ibenu, then the next generation, it came back with when Rivka came to the tent, and so forth. So Rambam says, now we have a redemption, because we reached back to the level of the tents of the Avos Imahos. So what does that mean? It means the original Mishkan was the home of the Jew. Right? So too, V'shachanti b'seicham, I'll dwell amongst you. Mishkan is great. I want you to make your home into a Mishkan. That's what the original Mishkan was. A home where Torah is learned. A home where you have guests. A home where there's no TV. A home where, tzedakah is given and you take in guests and all these things and the education of the children, all these things. Then you've made that place into a Mishkan that Hashem dwells. Shabbos is the same concept. Shabbos is the Mishkan of time. It's the tabernacle of time. Right? If you think about it, you step away from everything. You stop. You enter Me'ein Olam Haba. It's a glimpse of the future world. It's a time to stop and think. Your relationship with Hashem, what's going on? What's being a Jew about? You get to do Torah and mitzvahs, right? That's what Shabbos is. In the dimension of place and time, these are the 2 holiest elements. The holiest element in place is the Mishkan, and in time is Shabbos. Okay? Therefore, it's very good that Shabbos is mentioned every time in conjunction with the Mishkan. Okay? You got a Mishkan in time once a week for 25 hours. Every week. You can step into your Mishkan in time, Shabbos, and dedicate it totally to Hashem. That's what Shabbos is. Totally to Hashem, involved in the physical. Just like the Mishkan. Vayikuli Truma. Offer me offerings, gold, silver, tapestries, all these things. That's what Shabbos is. Eat 3 meals. Eat more on Shabbos than any other time. Right? Wear fine clothes. Right? All the materialistic things in Shabbos is being Romus. It's raised to spirituality. The everyday activities of eating. Sleeping on Shabbos is a mitzvah. Shinam b'Shabbos tanug. It's considered, right? All these things. It's a mitzvah It's a mitzvah to have relations with one's spouse on Shabbos. Real quick. Okay? The most physical activities possible. Right? Anyways, these most physical activities, relations, eating, sleeping, right? Shabbos sanctifies them, they become a mitzvah, just like the Mishkan, all the physical activities. Adar, what does that have to do with anything? Everything in Hebrew, the Hebrew language, we said it many times, describes the essence of what the thing is or anything is, right? The object, the person's name, the name of a person describes as neshama, is essence. All these things. That's why Shem is the same letters as Sham, a name. What Sham means there. What's that? What is that? The name, it tells you where you're at. So Adar, Aleph, the word Aleph, or the letter Aleph, same little thing, means like a princely thing. It's one of the names that's used for Kodesh Baruch Hu, for Hashem. The Aleph HaOlam, the Prince of the world, is Hashem, right? Aleph. Dar, like a dira, is to dwell. Dwell. God dwells. Adar. That's what it means. Adar means God dwells. Because Adar, Mishenichnas, Adar, Marbin, Besimcha, when Adar comes, we increase our joy. It's the month of redemption, Purim, back to the next month of redemption. Pesach, Nisan, Nisim, miracles. This is the greatest time of year for us. Right? This is when it starts. From the time the Adar comes, we start increasing our joy. Right? Mishenichnas Adar. So Hashem dwells, He's closer to us now in the month of Adar. Therefore, all the Torah portions that are read is about Hashem's dwelling place. The Mishkan. Right? That Mishkan, and now this time, we mentioned Shabbos, that's the time when Hashem, the Mishkan and Zman of time, right? Adar, the whole time, is a time when Hashem dwells with us a little more closely. So that's the idea. Let me just finish with this. Mishenichnas Adar, Marbim Besimcha, we increase our joy. Torah was given on Shabbos. The heart of the Mishkan was the Kodesh Kodeshim, where the Torah was, right? Adar, the Simcha of Adar is La Yehudim Hayasa Oira. We say in Havdalah. We say in Havdalah all the time. La Yusim Hayasa Oira Simcha Sam Yikar, right? The Jews had light. The Gemara says doesn't mean Ora. Ora doesn't mean light. It means Torah. That's Ora is Torah, right? Because it teaches you how to see things. Or light of Torah shows you how to look. It gives you the VIP treatment. VIP, vision, insight, perspective. The light of Torah. That's for you. Okay? So that's what Adar, the joy of Adar, of a Shabbos, right? All these months, a special time to stop, think. Take time out every day. Take a mishkan of time. A truma of time. Take 5 minutes a day. A person should take some time. Think where you're holding. Thank Hashem for being a yid, doing Torah, mitzvahs, all these things, right? It's a good thing to do. We get so caught up in the fast pace of everything, we forget about these great gifts. And the ultimate holiday comes every week. The Mishkan of time, Shabbos. This is the time to start doing it. Adar, Simcha. There's only Simcha when it's a Simcha that's involved in Torah and being dedicated. Not a frivolous Simcha. We're talking about a Kedusha of Simcha, a holiness of joy. Being involved as a Jew, having your rudder in the water, know where you're headed. Right? Getting to do Hashem's Torah and mitzvahs. Right? That's truly the Simcha of Adar. And that's how we make Hashem, B'shachanti, B'seicham, He'll dwell amongst us, L'doyers, for all times. Whether we have the physical structure of the Mishkan or not, we can make ourselves into a Mishkan by feeling the joy of being a Jew and doing His Torah mitzvahs, and make our home a proper abode that He can dwell in. Thank you very much. Good Shabbos.
For those of you who do catch up online with this class, and if you access it through Torah Media Atlanta, you should be aware that Yisrael Killian, who runs Torah Media Atlanta, reached out because donations to that site are down. For those of you who do take advantage of it, I would suggest making a donation online when you do use it so that he can continue that site.